beautiful friends, and welcome back to my channel. This is Nova Gnome Creations, and I'm Nova, and I am so happy to see you today. I hope that you are doing well, and I hope that you and your loved ones are taking care the best that you can. I hope you guys are having a fantastic week. It's Wednesday, which means you have made it halfway through the week. You have climbed up the hill, and now you just gotta coast down the rest of the way and into the weekend. So if this is a hard week for you or a long week for you, you have got this. Just keep trucking on. If it's a good week for you, I'm so happy that it's a good week for you, and I hope that it continues to go awesome. But you have made it halfway through the week regardless. And if you are not aware, on the Wednesdays of the week, it is WIP Wednesday. So that means Work in Progress Wednesday. I usually do a WIP Wednesday update, but I also just kind of do WIP any day updates. But today I'm going to do a little WIP Wednesday update. If you guys would like to let me know what you're working on in the comments below, feel free to let me know what you guys are up to. Any crafty things that you guys are up to, and anything that you have going on. If you'd like to share something exciting, or maybe something that you want to get off your chest, you are always welcome, not just on this video, but you are always welcome on any video to drop that down below. And everybody can kind of come together and, I don't know, have a little hangout session, maybe reply to each other's comments, you know. I'm going to read them, obviously, and I don't know, it's like we're all actually sitting here having a little powwow. So I hope that you guys have a crochet project, or a knitting project, or a painting project, or a diamond painting project, or anything that you want to work on, or nothing if you would like to work on nothing, if you just want to chill while we hang out today. Maybe have a little crochet and chat type of setup, and grab yourself something yummy to drink. I'm just drinking some water right now with ice though, so it's like nice icy cold water. If you guys can hear that, yeah. But that is what I've got going on right now as far as like what's in my cup. Feel free to let me know what you guys are drinking too. All right, guys. So what have I been up to? Everything. So I have just been kind of all over the place about what I'm working on. One of the things that I'm working on, you might see back here, is I'm working on the community blanket project, connecting together squares. So this was the first panel that I had made, which I did show you guys a while back. And then I hadn't really had time with everything going on to work on putting squares together. So I've been working on that again, and it does take quite a while to put together one panel, because I'm trying to make them 20 by 20 inches. So it's like a very exact kind of thing, because I'm doing the community blanket project with all different size squares. So if you guys are new here, by the way, welcome to my cozy little corner of YouTube. I hope that you find it to be the coziest corner of YouTube. I'm so happy that you're here. And also welcome back if you are not new here. Sorry guys, that should have been at the beginning of the video. But if you are new here and you don't know about the community blanket project, basically it's you guys are sending in squares to me, and they can be literally anything, like any type, any size, any material, any theme, any colors, any skill level. Like I have literally no requirements for it, because I wanted it to be something that everybody could do, something that's like very like attainable for any skill level to like participate if they wanted to. Obviously I know that like shipping is so freaking astronomical. Not everybody can participate, and I am totally understanding like that if you really wanted to but you just can't. I totally get it. Like trust me, I get it. But I wanted to make it as attainable as possible, and I was like, you know, a lot of people, especially like people who are in the United States, would be able to participate, because just sending a square is like, you can stick that in an envelope. But some people, quite a few people, have even sent squares in from all over the world, which has just been insane. And even all over the United States has just been insane, which like, okay, this is like a slightly distracted moment, but I saw this video recently of this guy from the UK who like lives in the United States right now. And he's like, something that people who don't live in the United States don't understand. They'll be like, oh yeah, Americans are so like not well traveled, but then you come to America and you see why, because they don't need to travel outside of the United States, because the United States is huge. They travel within the United States. They go on vacations in their own country. And I was sitting there like, yeah, like, yeah, we do. But then I started really thinking about it. And he was talking about like, oh, we can go 45 minutes, you know, from where I live, I can go 45 minutes I might be totally wrong about what countries they were, but let's just say I can go 45 minutes and go to France, or I can go 45 minutes and go to Spain. Like I said, I don't remember what countries he was saying. I don't even remember where he was from. I think it was somewhere in the UK. But anyway, he said, but here you go 45 minutes and you're in the same town. And I was like, yeah, because you can literally travel 10 hours and still be in Texas. You can drive for 10 hours in one direction and still be in Texas. Like our country is giant. And there's a lot of variety in like weather and environment, like the terrain and everything. Like you get all that different experience by going to different states. He was like, each state is like its own country. But anyway, I thought that was kind of funny, and also very true. And also, we are not very well traveled outside of our continent because it is so expensive to travel outside of our continent. So we have us, Canada, and Mexico right here. And the us, aka the US, is massive. Anyways, I don't remember why I got onto that subject. Oh, right. The people sending in squares from everywhere. So even sending them in from all over the United States is sort of like sending them in from like a bunch of different countries. Because, you know, I haven't even been to like so many of these states. So it's really cool. I love it. It makes me so happy to get squares. I've gotten so many squares, by the way. So I'm trying to get my butt in gear with connecting them together. Like, anyway, the point of what I was saying is they're all different sizes. So I'm looking at my square in the background here. You'll notice that like some squares are like bigger, some squares are smaller. But to make up like the 20 by 20 inch square, like bigger square that I'm going for, I have to make little squares to fill in gaps, like this little blue one and these like three little ones right there. And then I do like a little bit of bordering when it's like right here down at the bottom. I think I didn't even need an inch or something like that. So I just did like a row of double crochets or something. So it's very hodgepodge, and I love it. I think it's going to be so cool. I love that look of like, I don't know, it's going to look very eclectic and like, I don't know, boho and stuff like that. Like, I think it's going to be really cool. It's going to be so unique, very one of a kind. No one will ever have one like this, like a blanket like this. And it's going to be all you guys. Like, this is going to be something I can wrap around me that is like a big hug from all of my no-mes, which is what I call my community. If you are new here, then you are a no-me. So welcome to the no-me clan. But I'm just really excited about it. So anyway, I've been working on that, and I'm hoping to have a square ready, a 20 by 20 square ready to show you guys on Friday for Community Spotlight. I like to do my community blanket updates on that day. But I'm working on, and the reason I say I hope to have a square done by then is because I'm simultaneously working on like 3 different 20 by 20 squares, because like I can only fit so many big squares into each 20 by 20 square. So I try to do a good like mix of big squares and smaller squares, for one, just to keep it like varied. Like, don't do a 20 by 20 square of just smaller squares, but also because I need those smaller squares to work with the bigger squares to fill in that 20 by 20, so that I can just have small little gaps to fill in, rather than like I need to make like a bunch of squares to fill it in. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to like plan it out accordingly with what I have. So hopefully I will have at least a square to show you guys. But basically, if you guys weren't here, the concept is, let me spin around my little thing here and get my note card. If you guys haven't been here, this is the concept of the community blanket planning that I've done, to try to make it work. So basically my goal is to make a king size blanket, but because I have a king size bed, but I'm not like married to the idea at all. If I don't get enough squares to make a king size blanket, that is totally fine. I just won't put, you know, like one of these rows on, and it'll just be like, you know, more reasonable sized blanket. And if I get more squares than that somehow, then I will just either continue and make it absolutely ginormous, or possibly make a second blanket, or make something else with granny squares. Like, who knows what we'll do. This is like super, super flexible. And I like it like that because it takes so much like stress out of it for it to just be flexible. There's no like hard and fast, like start and finish dates for it. You guys have been sending in squares for like months now. Just whenever, you know, like obviously there were more squares sent in at the beginning, and now it's like here and there we'll get a square, and I think that's perfect. I'm just going to keep working on it, and it's kind of an ongoing community project, and I really like that feeling. And then in the end, we're going to have this really cool blanket that I'm just so stoked about. So that's one thing that I've been working on. Another thing that I actually picked up working on yesterday is, let me find the top of this so I don't pull out stitches. There we go. A bajillion years ago, sometime last year, I started this scrap project, and I still don't know what it is. I don't know if it's going to be a rug or if it's going to be a blanket, but it is this long. And it is a scrap project of some sort. So my goal with it is I use a 10mm hook, and I do a 10mm hook. I mean, my thing is that I try to use a bulky yarn held with like a 4-weight or a 3-weight yarn every time, to keep it kind of thick. But then sometimes, like this row right here, I just did 3 strands of worsted weight yarn, or actually I think it was more like 2 strands of worsted weight and a strand of a lightweight 3 probably. But I like it to be really funky, so I try to incorporate novelty yarns and fluffy yarns, blanket yarns, just like everything, like a little taste of everything. Trying to show this to you guys the best way that I can. Maybe if I turn it sideways. Each row has more than one like color variation in it, so turning it sideways, you're not going to see everything that goes on in the blanket or rug or whatever this is going to end up being. But here is a little close-up for you guys of how it's looking. Trying to see what I'm showing you. And it is, I'm doing it with a 10mm hook, and then I'm doing 2 double crochets and a single crochet in between each cluster. So this is kind of what I've got going on as far as stitches go. So I do 2 double crochets and a single crochet, and then I skip over to the next cluster. I don't do a chain or anything. I just skip over to the next cluster and do 2 double crochets and a single crochet. And I just do that every time. And then when I do my next row, I'll do the same thing. I'll work into these in between stitches so that it makes kind of a pretty solid, you know, thing without too many gaps, but it also makes it kind of work up quicker. So I am really loving it. Planning on working on it more. Like, I've said that I'm working on this like a bajillion times though, and like, oh, I want to like get it done or see how it's coming along or whatever, and then I get distracted and don't work on it. So I'm not going to make any promises. Right now it could be like a I don't know, would you call this a shawl? A stole. I love how it looks though. Maybe I'll just like make it into like a shawl or something. That is so cute. I really, really love scrappy projects. So the yarns that I'm using on this, it started out being mostly yarns that, well, I wouldn't say it started out being, it pretty much has been the whole time. Either yarns that I got like secondhand, like little balls of yarns that I would get from like Goodwill and stuff like that, especially when I started out crocheting and I didn't have very much yarn. I would go to like Goodwill. I keep wanting to say Hobby Lobby for some reason. I would go to like Goodwill and things like that, and I would look for yarn, and they like don't really have good yarn, at least the ones around me never do. Like none of those like secondhand places, you know, thrift shops and things like that, they never have good yarn. But I would buy like they would sell like big like gallon Ziploc baggies of like maybe the odd little skein, but mostly balls of yarn that like, you know, were someone else's scraps basically. And this was perfect for me learning how to crochet, because when I learned how to crochet, I had no idea what I was doing. I was teaching myself. Well, YouTube was teaching me with myself guiding everything. I had no idea about hook size or yarn size. And I combined yarn sizes and hook sizes wrong, very badly wrong. I crocheted so tight. I was using huge yarns with smaller hooks, but I actually think that that was a good thing for me because it made me very early on in my crochet journey aware of hook sizes and yarn sizes and how they go together, to where I got really comfortable feeling out, like for amigurumi and stuff like that, feeling out what hook size I should use with what yarns. So rather than always like just going by the ball band for yarns, I am more intuitive about how I pick my hook sizes, based on my own tension and what I'm making. So I'm actually glad that I started out using yarn scraps like that, because I think if I had just went like the correct route, I wouldn't have learned how to do that myself. I wouldn't have learned how to pair together yarn sizes and hook sizes. But what did end up happening was I ended up with a lot of yarn scraps that weren't my yarn scraps. And then also the further along into crocheting I get over time, the more of my own yarn scraps I have. So the first intention when I started this, I started it on this end, I believe. You might be able to tell. My first intention was to use really short yarn scraps, like, you know, maybe yarn scraps about this big. And what I was doing was making magic balls. So I would tie together my yarn scraps about this big, tie them together, tie them together, tie them together, wrapping it up as I go, and I would have yarn balls that were just made of a ton of different yarns. And they weren't even all the same weight of yarn. Like I literally was just tying together whatever yarns. And so that's where like the concept really came from. I love that really crazy variegated, you have absolutely no idea what's going on, like super scrappy was what I was kind of going for. But the further into the project I've gotten, the more I realized I can do like a whole row, or even maybe not a whole row because it actually is quite long. Maybe I'll do less than a row, but I can do a whole row of a color. And then if I feel like I'm starting to get too much of that color, I can always cut off, go to a different one and come back to it at a different point. I don't necessarily need to be tying together a bunch of like smaller yarn scraps, because I was literally like cutting my little like balls. I would cut them into like segments and then put them back together. I'm really stupid and weird like that. I have plenty of yarn that is about that length also. Usually I save all of my yarn scraps, like all of my yarn scraps. I make a lot of amigurumi. I end up with a lot of little yarn scraps. I save all of it with the intention of using it for stuffing, because sometimes I will add yarn scraps to my stuffing when I'm filling amigurumi. Also just like in my head, I feel like there's so many uses for yarn scraps, and some of them I feel like I haven't even stumbled upon, but I'm just saving them because I'm a hoardy crafter person and I will use them. I've used them in Christmas ornaments where I fill the balls with yarn scraps. I sort them by length. Like I'll spend a day going through and sorting them at some points. And when I go through and sort them, the ones that are longer, I will make into magic balls. And then I put the magic balls into this project. So this is another ongoing project. This is another project that I'm not like in some giant rush to finish. The intention was that I would keep it going while I would get yarn scraps. When I first started it, I actually didn't have like a ton of yarn scraps. So I would make my magic balls and then I'd be like, oh, I can't work on it anymore. Now, of course, I'm drowning in yarn scraps. So I've got plenty of stuff to put into this. Some things I put into this that aren't even yarn scraps, but I just added them in, just added in a little bit of them because I wanted the texture. So like this blue yarn right here and in a few different places, well, actually this rainbowy colored one was a yarn scrap. But you might see this blue fuzzy yarn also. This is actually from that Bernat like Casa yarn. I think was it Casa or Mikasa? I think it was Casa. It's like this super scrappy yarn. It is so cool. And I got it like, oh, I'm going to put it in my scrap blanket. But then I really, really liked it. And I was like, I don't want to put the whole thing in my scrap blanket because like I want to use it for something else. So I put part of it into my scrap blanket. But, and then same thing for like this round or this row with the white and the pinks. Those are a different Casa yarn. I got a pink one and a blue one. I bought the blue one at full price, which was like $10.99, I think. And then I got really lucky and this like This one with the pink and the white, it's more, it has a lot more like colors going on in it. It's not as like streamlined as just the blue one was. I got that one in clearance for like $3, which I was so excited about. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm buying this. I didn't even necessarily need that colorway, but like, I really like the scrappy effect of the Casa yarn, like how it's just so like random and different textures and different thicknesses and stuff. But yeah, anyway, so that is what is going on with this. I've probably put 3 rows into it. I was working on it last night. This week is our spring break week. So I've been hanging out in the bed, watching movies with hubby and stuff more. So I wanted like projects I can just pick up and work on without like needing to sit at my desk or have a pattern. I prefer when I'm making amigurumi. I know that I'm weird for this because, you know, crochet, you can sit anywhere and like sit on the couch and sit in bed and sit wherever. But when I'm making amigurumi, I actually prefer to sit at my desk. I like to be able to have my pattern in front of me. I like to be able to have everything I need around me. Like I can have my scissors and I can have my different yarns and I can have my safety eyes and my polyfill and all that. And then like whatever I want to watch or whatever I can pull up in front of me, you know, which is why I crochet in here sometimes. And I also crochet at my computer desk out there sometimes, because when I crochet at my computer desk, I can use my computer to watch YouTube. I can use my phone to watch YouTube though in here. And I mean, technically there's a TV back there, but it is behind me. And so it is not the most useful place. At some point I want to get like a little folding table or something that I can set up and just like flip my chair around. Cause you know, it is a rolly chair. The chair is a whole nother matter. This chair, I have to have a hubby take it in and out of here and my computer desk because I really need to get a second one of these. So this chair goes back and forth between the 2 rooms. So yeah, those are like the places that I crochet the most. And then like if I crochet in bed or, you know, somewhere else, I prefer to have something that I can just crochet without a pattern, that I can just have my project bag, probably not switching yarn colors a ton, but if I am not weaving in tails as I do it and things like that, like just kind of like a more chill project. I almost said progress, a chill progress. Oh yeah, I was like, there was other things to show you guys. Okay, so I made this. I don't know what this is going to be yet, but I love it. So I double stranded together this yarn, this blanket yarn that came from Temu, and then this pipsqueak yarn. So the pipsqueak yarn is this one. It's the Bernat pipsqueak in baby print. It is so cute. This is like one of the cutest yarns you'll ever see. It's technically a bulky 5, but it's like, it's this kind of bulky 5 where it's actually quite like not a bulky 5 at all. Like more a thin 4, but then it's got the fuzzy on it. So yeah. So that's the type of thickness you're looking at. And then I actually used all of this blanket yarn, but here is like a scrap from my scrap bag. So it was like pastels, pinks and greens and yellows and purples, and I think that's everything. And then it would like bleed in between the 2 colors. But look how perfectly that matches the blanket yarn. Don't those go together so well? I love it. I literally love this so much. And then I made a flower out of that like tweeted yarn scraps that I have. This is I love this yarn from Hobby Lobby. They have a blue one and a white one, and they're like tweeted with rainbow. This one is like rainbow pastels. This was literally like all of that yarn that I had in my scraps. I've been kind of playing with the scraps from that, but this was like the last of it. I love this yarn so much. I will definitely get it again. I use that yarn, like I love it. I go through it. But I think that this is so cute. Like I've played around with putting some faces on it, and I have a few ideas for felt faces to do on it, but I'm not sure what I'm turning it into yet. So I've considered just leaving it as a ball. And I've considered this being a head. I've considered giving it a really tiny body, like putting like little like legs and arms and stuff on it. But I don't know. I don't know what I want to turn it into yet. This was just me playing around with yarn. This is really, really satisfying to hold. It is like perfectly like palm sized. So when I made it, I was really tempted to just leave it like a ball. I was like, it's kind of like a snowball. I think it came out so cute. I wanted to make it into something. And then because I loved the way that those yarns combined together so much, I also made, this was with the very last of it, of that blanket yarn. Because unfortunately, those Temu blanket yarns come in really small amounts. I went ahead and made a mushroom cap. So I've been making random mushroom caps out of blanket yarn. And I've got, I think like 5 or 6. I don't know what I'm doing with them yet, but I've just been making them, and I'm like thinking I might do like, I don't know, like a little fairy house or like a little gnome house. I don't know. I literally don't know what I'm doing with them. Or I might just make them and like, I don't know, hang them on the doors the way that I have these little gnomes hung on the doors. I don't know. So I've been making a lot of random things that I don't know what I'm doing, like where I'm just like, I feel like using specific yarn. So like the shelf, like on the back of my desk over here, I just have like random pieces of like potential amigurumis and mushroom caps and like lots of random stuff. Do you guys ever do that? I like, sometimes I really just want to use specific yarns and I just make, I don't feel like following a pattern. There's 2 different like crocheting modes for me. I love to like, you know, like look at a pattern and like make whatever it is, and obviously do my own thing with it because I always end up doing that. Or I like really don't feel like looking at a pattern at all, and I like my brain will rebel against a pattern if I try to follow it. I worked a little bit more on my dragon. I think I showed this on Monday, this piece. You guys see that I like barely worked on it at all, but look at that color scheme. Look at that color. This is that Hobie yarn. This was like my Holy Grail yarn. The Holy Grail yarn is Holy Grailin'. That's all I'm going to say, guys. And here's the skein that's from if you wanted to see how stunning. Is this not dragon? This is dragon. This is dragon. This colorway is color 25, by the way. But this just screamed like stereotypical dragon colors to me. So I was like, I have to use that to make a dragon. But yeah, anyway, I've worked on it a tiny bit, but I've been like really, my brain has really not been in pattern mode. I also, with that blanket yarn, by the way, made this random necklace for the bunny that I made recently. Or not necklace, but like a cowl type of thing. And it can come off. It's not like attached on or anything. But yeah, so I don't even know how I feel about it, but actually this was the thing that I made with the very last of the yarn. The very last of that yarn, what I did was I took it and took the whole length of it and folded it in half, and then I just tied it around my crochet hook so that I had 2 strands of yarn coming from it that were the same length, and then I just chained. I held both of those yarns together and just chained. So that's a cool little trick if you have just like a certain length of yarn that you're wanting to use up, and not have any like little scraps or waste, which now that I'm working on the scrap blanket project, maybe I should have left myself a little scrap to put into it. But at the time I was like, oh, I want to use up like every like precious inch of this yarn because I really, really like it. This yarn is from Temu, guys. I wish I could get it in bigger skeins because they come in really small skeins. I want to say like 50 grams maybe, but 50 grams of blanket yarn is not a lot of blanket yarn. I'm pretty sure it's 50 grams, but regardless, I think I need to buy like 70 of them or something to be able to like really do like a project like I would, like a bigger project. But yeah, so I made that, and then I just trimmed off like the very littlest scraps, and like that's how I ended up with these scraps that are in my scrap bag. These were what was left. This was my only waste from that little skein. But yeah, So that is my WIP Wednesday update. I had a very whippy Wednesday update for you guys because none of these projects will probably see their completion anytime soon. They are very much like ongoing projects, but I'm just like, I don't know, I've been in like a weird mode like of picking up projects. I also have like made a few squares for hubby's blanket, which has also been a very long ongoing project. And I figured out part of why. I really struggle with like repetition of a thing in crocheting. So like I've talked about this before, I really struggle with like blankets and things like that, especially just like big, I've never made like a big granny square blanket or something like that because I get bored. I have to like, and this is why I think that I gravitate so heavily towards amigurumi. For one, I have like a plushie obsession. I have had a plushie obsession. You guys don't even know how many plushies I have. I have been obsessed with plushies much longer than I've been into crochet. They're like my favorite thing. And I have a lot of like interests being a geek. I have a lot of geeky interests, and so I gravitate towards plushies for all of my geeky interests. So of course, when I started crocheting, being into plushies and also being interested in making plushies already before too, I've tried my hand at sewing them, even though I don't know how to sew. And I did pretty okay with it, but it took me forever. Crocheting, of course, I was going to get into amigurumi, but I also think that it's because I have a short, like, I want to say a short attention span, because I definitely like stick with my crocheting. But I don't know, I get bored, I get uninterested if I'm just doing like the same thing over and over most of the time. Sometimes you do want those projects that you can pick up and just like mindlessly crochet on, and that's where I come into like things like this. But I like it because it also is interesting. It changes so frequently that it keeps me on my toes. Like I get to see a new pattern. I get to see a new combination of yarn. I really like seeing the different ways that yarns work together and things like that. But anyway, what I was saying is with hubby's blanket, I want to make that blanket. I want to get that blanket done, but I only have it in me to make like 2 squares because they're big squares. They're 8x8 squares. I only have it in me to make like 2 squares before I am like burnt out on that and I have to put it aside and do something else every time. So I think I'm at, I know I made it to 10 squares because I planned on doing 30, because I knew that like the original like square that I made was part of a crochet along that was like 30 squares to make a blanket. But after thinking about it, I realized that's not going to be a very big blanket, so it might have to be bigger than that. But anyway, that was my original intent, was to make 30 squares. Well, there's a whole story here, guys, and I don't need to go into it because I don't even have one of the squares over here, but I'm making them out of, I do have one of the yarns over here. I'm making them out of this fireplace yarn, or fireplace comfort yarns. This one is white, which I haven't made like a whole square out of it. It's like white and purples. I got these in the Hobby Lobby clearance like 2 years ago, I think, for $2.44 instead of their normal $8.99. These are like really bougie. These are 4-weight yarns that are 70% acrylic and 30% wool. They're really, really nice. Like, they are really pretty yarns. Most of them are not this color, by the way. This is like a very different colorway of it. Well, I got like a bunch of different ones, and my hubby decided he wanted me to make him a blanket out of them because I made this square. Well, I made 2 squares from Cozy Rosie Crochet's Hodgepodge Cow. I've talked about it quite a bit on my channel. I made the spiked granny modern spiked granny square, and I used like 3 different colors of fireplace comfort in that one, and it was really cool. But then I made the offset Trinity stitch square, and that opened up like Pandora's box, for 2 different reasons. One, I put I put Trinity stitches in everything now. That was what I was telling you guys when I made this. And I made this square like probably well over a year ago. These are Trinity stitches down at the bottom. For one, it became one of my new favorite stitches. I think it's really cool. But for two, it became hubby's favorite stitch. It was the first time that I have ever heard him say, like, this is my favorite stitch. I love the way the stitch feels. I love the way the stitch looks. He being like a non-crocheter, normally he'd just think like, oh, that looks cool. I like the colors of that yarn, or, you know, that whatever, you know, very like basic, like surface level compliments, you know. I had never seen him like into it enough to like praise a stitch, a specific stitch, but he loved the way that the stitch feels because it's a really thick, squishy stitch, and it's very solid. So like it makes a nice solid granny square. I wish I didn't intend to talk about it. I wish I had one over here, but I don't think I do. I don't even think I have it in this room. I have a project bag with it in it. Anyway, about it. So I was like, okay, I'll make you a blanket of this square. I've made a bunch of that square, relatively. But then I also recently, to get myself more motivated to work on it, I've started switching it up and doing other stitches, but I'm being very, very picky about what I use. I want it to be things that are not going to have holes in it. So not granny squares, because they have gaps, you know, in between the granny clusters. I'm wanting to keep it really interesting, like as close to that type of stitch, like that same kind of concept, you know, thicker stitches, not having holes in it, you know, that type of thing, things that make an interesting texture. So I recently picked up like a new square that I made, and I thought it was really cool, which I haven't shown you guys. I'll have to show you guys. I'll have to bring it in at some point soon. But anyway, I've been working on that blanket too. But yeah, so I don't know. I've just been in that mode to like pick up projects I've already got going that I like needed to work on and just kind of plug away at them a little bit. So it was definitely a very WIPs Wednesday video today, because I had so many things that I've just put a little bit into, you know. One of those things where like none of these are going to be finished projects anytime soon, but I worked on them, gosh darn it. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys are having a great day. It is March. It is Wednesday. I'm thinking, like, do we have anything cool coming up? St. Patrick's Day is on the 17th, I think. I think it's the 17th. I don't know why I think it's the 17th, but I think it's the 17th. So St. Patrick's Day is coming up real soon, actually. Well, in Final Fantasy 14, Little Ladies Day starts on the 14th. I know that that's a very niche thing to like celebrate, but there is going to be a really cool mount. If you play Final Fantasy 14, you might want to check that out. There's going to be a really cool floral crowned Gabu, however the frick you say that word. It's so weird. It's like Goobbue or something like that. But yeah, there's gonna be a little floral crowned one that you ride on its head. So weird sounding to anybody who doesn't play that game, I know. Anyways, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you guys again real soon. Don't forget to send in any community spotlight makes that you have. Friday is community spotlight, which is the day that I spotlight you. If you're watching this video, that means that you are part of my community and that you are always welcome to participate in Community Spotlight. Community Spotlight is open to everybody, regardless of skill level and regardless of craft. So if you crochet, obviously you can share. If you knit, if you paint, if you diamond paint, if you clay sculpt, if you do digital art, literally anything that you craft, anything that you make, if you'd like to share it with our community and share it with some like-minded people who are going to appreciate the hard work that went into it, that are going to be excited with you about it, this is the place to share. Feel free to send me an email. My email is always in the description box below my videos, but it is novagnomecreations@gmail.com. No underscores, no nothing, just literally smushed together, novagnomecreations@gmail.com. And then in the subject line of the email, put Community Spotlight. Other than that, the only things I require is you to attach pictures of whatever it is that you made. By the way, there is no limit. You can send in however many things you have made, and your name. So I really, really highly prefer highly prefer if you guys let me know what name to credit you guys as when I'm making the video. Because even though I might know your name, I might know what you go by, you may have entered Community Spotlight 700 times, it is less stressful for all parties involved, for me when I'm making my video, and, you know, for you potentially if you want to go by something specific. When I'm putting together that video, it's so nice to be able to just go in there, get the pictures, read whatever you guys have said. You can say anything you want, by the way. There's no requirements on, like, you know, letting me know patterns and yarns and backstories or anything, but you're welcome to send any of that stuff that you want to. But when I'm going through and, you know, checking all the emails and putting this together, it is so much easier and less stressful if I just see right on there, hey, I want to go by Julianne. Hey, I want to go by Frozen. Because not everybody goes by whatever name is attached to their email. And sometimes your email name may not even be a name that I would, like, know is you if you didn't tell me, because you go by something on YouTube that isn't what your email, like, account's name is. If you don't let me know a name at all, because sometimes people just send me pictures and don't say anything, I will do my best to assume what name to use by your email account. It'll usually say that it's from Joe Schmo, and I'll be like, okay, Joe Schmo sent in this picture. But, you know, maybe you don't want Joe Schmo as what you're credited as. Maybe you only want Joe. Maybe you only want Joe S. That's a pretty good example, actually, of things that people go by. So it's just easier for everybody if you just let me know what you want me to call you. I know that I go on about that every time, but every time I still get people that don't put their name in there. And then I gotta, like, be like, I really hope I'm not stepping on any toes with my assumption on what to call you. But yeah. So if you would like to participate in Community Spotlight, make sure you guys send that email in. But I will see you guys again real soon. I hope you have a beautiful day. Mwah, 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 mwah. Bye, guys.